Watching the orange smoke vanish out of that sealed box in about 10 seconds flat is oddly satisfying to sit and watch, though I must be honest, I have 2 air purifiers in my home and I can't even describe the crud it pulls from the air. It is horrifying. Well, a perfect 5-pointed star sat in the middle of the Algerian desert. I've no idea why that is or what it is, but I know what it's not. Could be a marker, could be nothing at all. Very odd thing to have out in the open like that, though. I'm as convinced as I was last time. Just because it's Kanye doesn't make it true.
This video shows the size of every major tsunami that has hit Earth. So I think most of us have maybe seen a big wave about 5 meters. If you're in Australia, maybe you saw something 20 plus. Was that 60 feet? And then we get to the big dogs. So what do you do if a tsunami comes? I know you try to flee to nearby cities and stuff, but what if you can't? You just go underground? Is that how that works? Okay, April Fool's tsunami. What a weird name to give something so horrific. As big as a starship, 100 meters or 300 feet. So these are the entire cities would be gone. Eiffel Tower, imagine that hit Paris. 250 meters, dude, how big do these things get? Holy, the size of the Burj Khalifa, Jesus Christ.
Every one of these makes the last look like a puddle. So what is the plan there exactly? Go underground? Oh, wait.
Did you really want to charge to use toilets on Ryanair planes? Yes or no?
Yes, but not because I want the money. We'll give the money away to charity. I want to get rid of we have 3 toilets. If I can get rid of the 2 toilets at the back of the planes, I can add 6 extra seats. With 6 extra seats, I can lower everybody's airfare by another 5% all year round.
Did you want to make some passengers stand on planes to fit more people in, a la the tube?
Yes.
How safe is that?
Very safe. Funny enough, what we wanted to do was to take out about the last 10 rows of seats. But wait for it. You take out the last 10 rows of seats and we guarantee that the stand down, we'd have a standing cabin and a seated cabin. The seats would be €25, the standing cabin would be €1. I guarantee you we will fill the standing cabin first.
So the plan is to charge you to use the toilet, rip out the back seats and sell you a spot standing up for €1, and somehow that's him doing us a favor. That's the whole business model in one interview, really. I do like this one, a fire engine that swaps its wheels for the rails so it can get down a tunnel and reach you. Good engineering, nothing sinister about it, and we don't get enough of that really. More of this on the show, I think.
We are witnessing history right now. For the first time in close to a century, a country is trying to resurrect their extinct tiger population. And the whole thing is resting on Yumit's massive shoulders, because she is the first tiger chosen to be released into the wild in 70 years. So what the hell is she gonna eat? Well, Kazakhstan has been planning that for nearly a decade. You see, sadly, the country's native tiger population went fully extinct in 1948. Because, you guessed it, hunting. But this time around, it's looking pretty different. Because Kazakhstan have created an entire protected reserve, specifically in the old territory of their extinct tigers. Then they spent 6 years rebuilding a whole food chain from scratch. They released over 200 deers, relocated more than 100 wild asses, and also regrowing the wild boar population, and then finally releasing the first tiger into that environment alone. Now, if she does get on well without any issues, there are plans to release a number more and grow the population. And if this whole painstaking process proves to be successful, it could become the blueprint for how other countries facing similar extinctions can bring those animals back too.
A whole country put 6 years into rebuilding a food chain from scratch. Hundreds of deer, 100 odd wild donkeys moved in. Also, one tiger has something to hunt. We took them out in a few decades, and it now takes exactly this to put one back. So a full minute of zooming out from Earth to the edge of everything under a caption swearing space is nothing much. Puts your whole day in perspective, doesn't it?
This Kenyan lawyer has sued Israel for crucifying Jesus. You see, this is Dola Indidis, and in 2007 he filed a lawsuit in the High Court of Nairobi claiming that the original trial of Jesus did not conform to the rule of law, even by the standards of that era. He argued, according to the Bible, that Jesus was questioned unfairly, never given a real chance to defend himself, and beaten and humiliated before he was even sentenced. And despite being a couple thousand years late, he says all of that is legal ground to have a retrial and to have Jesus' death sentence overturned. And this is no joke, this is a serious lawsuit. He even explicitly names multiple figures from the original biblical account as defendants, as well as the Republic of Italy and the State of Israel. But after the Kenyan courts rejected his lawsuit, he took it a step further by filing a petition with the International Criminal Court of Justice in 2013, 2017, and then again in 2021. Bro will not rest until he has justice for Jesus. Now ultimately, the ICJ, they kind of smacked this whole thing down, saying they have no jurisdiction and that it's theoretically impossible for us to consider this case. So the question is, should bro just give up or keep trying?
Every day, the world we live in just gets a little bit more weird, wouldn't you agree? But somehow, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but this is not the weirdest thing that we're going to cover today, not by a long shot.
Guys, so I'm just watching Miss Rachel with my son, and this person pops up on the screen, and he's just like waving at us, talking in a different language. And look at him. I don't know if he can hear me or not. This is scary. This is insane. I've seen it on TikTok and on the news, and I never thought this would happen. Look, let me see if he'll pop up again, because it's this.
There you go. Thank you. You're welcome. Bean will have a nice nap, and then he'll have energy to play later. Can you help me get him to sleep? And we sing a lullaby.
Fuck this shit.
See, this is what happens when your telly is wired into everything and secured by nothing. That stranger turning up mid-cartoon isn't a ghost in the machine, is it? It's someone who may have found a screen with no password on it. Horrible thing to watch happen, though.
Take a look at this. And the craziest part about this whole thing is that we pay more in taxes than food, clothing, and housing combined. Welcome to the golden age.
Golden age? Every government takes more off you than it costs to feed and house you, then hands you a slogan for the trouble.
Today I'm going to show you blister fluid under a microscope. I got this one from hot oil that got onto my finger while cooking some food. Blisters are small pockets of fluid that form on the upper layer of skin after it's been damaged. The clear liquid inside blisters may be either serum or plasma that is there to cushion and protect the skin underneath until it heals. It's composed of mostly water with electrolytes, proteins, lipids, and various other substances. The first thing I noticed was a few dead skin cells, which most likely came from my finger hitting the slide. In addition, there was a bunch of these little globules, which may either be lipids or just air bubbles, but I'm not exactly sure. I also came across some white blood cells on the slide and time-lapsed it so we could watch their movement. These white blood cells move around using pseudopodial locomotion, which is a projection of cytoplasm that pulls the cell forward, similar to how an amoeba moves. In some of the clips, you can actually see those projections come out of the cell, which I thought was pretty interesting. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.
You know what, as disgusting as it is, I could watch a blister's fluid under the lens all day. And is that weird? Probably, yeah, that's probably a little weird. I just find these interesting, you know, a tiny moving zoo of cells, which origin story is rather grim, but still wildly interesting. Let me know if you agree.
Did you see what Flock Camera is doing now?
No, what's come out?
A lot of cops are resigning or forced to resign because they're speaking out against this Flock Camera system.
Why?
Something that just came out is that Flock Cameras not only only do they do facial recognition, but they have this capability now for their AI to instantly link up to your Bluetooth in your car, whether it be your phone or your headphones, and then be able to track you anywhere.
That makes absolutely zero sense. We keep seeing more and more videos of these flock cameras falsely accusing people who are completely innocent, who have footage of them at other places.
All I'm saying is there's copper in there.
We're not saying go cut these things down.
No,
I'm just talking about the potential shortage of copper.
I heard a lot of people were buying those green laser pointers and it's frying the system. You guys shouldn't do that.
No, of course not. Because that would work. They would stop working if we did that.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal and you should not do that.
Every camera that goes up gets sold to us as safety, and a year later you find out it's reading number plates, faces, and now apparently the Bluetooth in your car as well. So where does it actually stop?
Yeah, so these are the Hoysala temples, which are in southern India. I was just looking at these with my own eyes a couple weeks ago. It's completely unexplainable, and to think of the size of the machine that would be required, say you turn that pillar sideways, you connect it to a machine on each side, and you start lathing. So I do think we have strong evidence for machining in ancient history, and in my mind it doesn't have to be machines. You know, there could have been other ways that they were doing this that we don't even recognize. This is at the museum in Hampi in southern India, and that to me it looks like where a pillar might have been placed and the machine was spinning,
like the end plates.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never been able to fully shrug off the tool marks on some of this old stonework, and no, I don't buy that it's completely lost technology, really, not really. I think it's only lost in the sense that it's sat somewhere and we've not got any access to that place. I'm looking at somewhere Italy direction, if you know what I mean.
I've seen quite a few recommendations saying I should try hydrogen peroxide out on germs to see what happens. I've been letting this pond water marinate for about a week now just to try this out. Before we do that, first let's check out what we got in this water. As you can see, there's tons of living organisms. I added the hydrogen peroxide here and you can see the wave wash over all the cells and debris. I immediately noticed a lot of things started bubbling up, but what really caught my attention was this little cell here to the right. The two bubbles inside the cell started expanding until the cell wall ripped and the cell pretty much exploded. Most living organisms contain an enzyme called catalase. This enzyme catalyzes the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide to rapidly form water and oxygen. So that means all these little bubbles you see forming around the slide are actually oxygen bubbles. I got a pretty cool time lapse of that reaction in dark field here.
Watch the whole slide fizz off as the catalase in everything living lets go of its oxygen at once. Oddly satisfying, infinitely interesting.
Hi! Hello! Can you say mama? Mama! Mama! Let's sing it! Mama! Let's clap it! Mama! Let's sign it! Mama! Good job! Clapping! This is clapping. Mama. Can you say dada? Dada.
And here we go, another warning telling mums to be careful what autoplays once the nursery rhymes ends. Fair enough. The platform is a swamp, but the accountability has to sit somewhere with whoever handed a toddler an open tablet and TV remote and just left them to it, you know? Hello and welcome back to another episode. If you're new here, my name is NEXOR and my job is to take you all down the rabbit hole with me. And it's not to find the bottom, it's to find the thread which resides in amongst all the noise and all the static, extract it and practice our discernment along the way. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, well, stick around, there's a lot more of that coming up. But also, I'd ask that you maybe hit subscribe now if you're enjoying it so far. The goal is to actually make it to 200k subscribers by September 1st, I think we'll go for. If every single person who watches these episodes who isn't subscribed, they keep coming back. I mean, I can see it in the data. People keep returning. I have more returning viewers who are not subscribed than subscribed. Guys, make it easier for yourselves. Hit that subscription button now, get it out of the way. It means you'll always be here at ground zero as soon as an episode drops. And it also means we'll hit that goal in like probably 2 episodes if you were all to do it, which would be insane. Let's prove to YouTube that, you know, this information is worth watching and consuming because, well, in my opinion it is. And the stats say that you think it is too. Cheers.
College dorm rooms in the SEC are now getting designed by interior designers. Freshman dorm rooms. Now think about your dorm room that you had as a freshman and compare it to this one at the University of Alabama. This is being done by a woman by the name of Mary Margaret Designs Dorm. And here's the thing, she's making, wait for this, $20,000 a room. She is raking it in. She's very southern. She gives me Sandra Bullock vibes from The Blind Side. She left a photo of her son in this woman's dorm room, or this freshman's dorm room at Alabama. He plays football at LSU, and she's like, he's very cute. I don't know if she's playing matchmaker or something. That was the first thing she showed off. I don't think this girl knows that guy. She runs a brilliant business. She shows off the designs that she does. There's the mother of the student. She was Alpha Phi class of 2003 at University of Alabama. I just made that up. I have no idea. I think extensions and bleached blonde hair runs in the family. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. That your hair looks great, ma'am. Your hair looks great. It's going very viral on Twitter right now. The reaction on Twitter is amazing. My nightstand was a cinder block. I'm sure a lot of people have similar stories like that. Yeah, Mary Margaret Design probably works 2 months a year, 3 months a year, and just brings in more money than everybody watching this video. She is, the ROI on this business is probably through the roof. Do not let private equity get involved with this, because they will be running wild.
I told you it was going to get weirder, and get weirder it did. And yes, before you go pinching yourself, this is real life. This is still the real world, and somewhere out there are college kids paying $20K for a room to be remodeled into some kind of dollhouse aesthetic. Saying it out loud makes me want to facepalm my skull through.
My famous doctor!
Say what?
Famous doctor!
Did you bring your kids to work today?
Yeah, I thought that was you.
Hi, my name is Doctor!
Hey, Tower, is that a baby on frequency?
I'm trying to figure out. My guess is as best as yours.
So some kid gets on the air traffic control frequency and sends the whole tower into a spin. Brilliant. You can hear the confusion from all angles. Classic.
You will have no freedom. You will have no agency. You will be absolutely no privacy. There will be nothing left in the world for you to really do. Nothing that really matters. You'll just kind of...
I'd say you don't need the whole quote to catch the shape of it, okay? The man is selling us the future, telling us it holds no freedom and no privacy left. Then a takedown notice slapped on the end. Wow, that really says a lot more than any part of the clip before it.
Computers becoming fully unmanned. Afterwards, they fly with a perfect operational record. The Skynet funding bill is passed. The system goes online on August 4th, 1997. Human decisions are removed from strategic defense. Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th. In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
Skynet fights back.
Yes, it launches its missiles against the targets in Russia.
Why attack Russia? Aren't they our friends now?
Because Skynet knows that the Russian counterattack will eliminate its enemies over here.
Jesus.
I'll give them the Terminator 2 parallel. It is a genuinely eerie watch, but Skynet firing the nukes was always the least interesting bit, I think. The real story is quieter, you know, the data centers, the water, the choices we used to make are now getting made for us. And it's not the ultimate ending, it's the building we allowed to happen, which is probably the most deeply unsettling part of it all, isn't it?
DJ more party.
Fine, the countryside's beautiful and the city can grind you down. Nobody's arguing with that. But to be fair, slapping the word brainwashed over a skyline where millions of people actually live is probably the kind of deep thought you have at about 17. Do we really need any further evaluation on this one? I mean, we see it everywhere in everything at all times. It's hard not to actually see it these days, is it?
He found a recently deceased dinosaur skeleton.
Ho, ho, ho. I don't want to ruin the imaginative nature of this video, but I'm sorry, this is not a dead dinosaur. This video that I got tagged in shows a person doing some urban exploring in an abandoned structure. It says POV, you go out of bounds and find a dead dinosaur. They then show a large, still actively decomposing skeleton on the ground, and that is supposed to be the dinosaur here. Ripping the band-aid off right away, you're not going to find an actively decomposing dinosaur body. They have been long gone and dead for a very long time, but you can find other large animals like whales decomposing. And given this bone structure right here of the head of the animal that they found, I think it's safe to say that we are definitely looking at a decomposing whale. Depending on the type of whale, the skeleton can be huge. It is still fascinating to find nonetheless. It doesn't have to be a dinosaur. And if I had to guess, this video was probably recorded in a place in very close proximity to the ocean or sea.
I'll hand him this one, okay? That's not a dinosaur, and he says so before the comments fill with Nephilim, okay? It's a whale that washed up and rotted down. Boring answer, right answer. Unfortunately, look, we can all live in whimsy or we can live in reality.
Why are billionaires putting tape over their phone cameras? This picture just dropped of the leader of Israel holding his smartphone. And if you look at it, it looks kind of weird. As you can see, there's like red tape over the cameras. And the internet has been going crazy trying to figure out what exactly this is for. And if people like us should be concerned. Okay, so what you're seeing on his phone is not standard electrical tape. This is called specialized tamper-evident security seal. And this is basically a standard in the Israeli security protocol for individuals entering highly classified government facilities. So this tape physically blocks these sensors to prevent accidental and malicious imaging of classified materials. Not to mention, there's this other picture of Mark Zuckerberg. He had both his camera and his microphone taped. And this is coming from the guy that owns Facebook. So they're putting tapes on these sensors because this can be a breach of security on the person. The idea is that somebody would be spying on this person through these cameras or this microphone. Now, part of me is skeptical if I were to tape my microphones, if that would totally block the audio, but it sounds like it's a little bit of a safe precaution when it comes to these powerful political leaders who kind of have a lot on the line.
Right, this is what everyone screenshots as proof the elite know something we don't. It is tamper-evident tape. To be fair, the standard seal for entering a classified room so nobody films the desk, which should be pretty standard stuff. They've put up a barrier because there's a spill, and the caption on the screen literally says there's a spill. Not everything behind a bit of plastic sheeting is a cover-up.
So this is poor, but wait till I get to billionaire, because this is the sad reality of the world we live in today. Here's middle class, which is a lot of people. Here's upper middle class. Here's upper class. So not a lot of people got that. Here's millionaire. Like, y'all, at that point, you might as well just have dollar bills as your toilet paper. Here's billionaire. But look, guys, look. If you look closely at these stairs, you see, actually, you know what? Here's infinite wealth. Yeah, all of that's going to perish anyways. Do we understand that he's the only one who will be left standing, and anyone who decides to follow him and belong to him will be standing with him? Everything else is meaningless. I'll take this one, though. I'll take this one, though.
Okay, I will give it the wealth ladder. That is the fair part. Most of us are stuck near the bottom, and the top may as well be another planet. Then it swerves off into spread the gospel territory, which is his business, right? But it is a bit of a bait and switch, which, I don't know, what's the angle there? Make of it what you will.
Weird dudes in history. Ever heard of mesmerism? Well, meet its inventor, Dr. Franz Mesmer, though the term he used for it was animal magnetism. Mesmer theorized that human bodies carried a, quote, magnetic fluid, and that blockages of its flow could cause pain and mental illness. While he initially experimented with applying magnets to his patients after they swallowed iron powder, he later concluded that no, it was actually his own animal magnetism that cured them. So he turned to intensely staring patients in the eyes while waving his hands down their body or pressing on their stomachs. And remarkably, some patients reported relief from pain, mental illness, or even blindness. Later, he invented group treatments where patients stood around magnetic water tanks with steel rods pointing at their bodies while he played the glass harmonica. And as I'm sure you can see where this is going, the medical establishment ultimately drove him out of Austria as a quack, causing him to settle in Paris, where controversy followed him. prompting King Louis XVI to form a scientific commission to investigate this animal magnetism, with the commission's blind trials, some of the first in history, finding no evidence for his claims. Still, you can't deny how cool magnets are, especially ones like these for your fridge, which you can only get by backing our 2027 History Happens Everyday calendar, which tells you a neat historical fact for every day of the year, including more.
What is it with these creators plugging random stuff at the end of their videos? Either way, some interesting history there. Weird, but interesting.
Most people don't realize, but looking like this used to be illegal. Yeah, in the US, UK, and most of Europe, beach police literally patrolled around with tape measures and rulers, checking to make sure that women's swimwear didn't rise 6 inches above the knees. And if you broke the rule, you could be fined, or I guess in some serious cases, taken to jail. There's literal pictures of that. And at this point, the bikini hadn't even been invented yet. But, when it was in 1946 by a French engineer, of course, it caused chaos. It was banned outright in multiple countries, including Spain, Italy, Portugal, France, Australia. The Vatican called it sinful, and crowds even protested against these bikinis, with signs saying you're going to hell for this. Now, ultimately, things gradually changed in the 1950s and 60s when European beach tourism exploded. Women wanted to wear bikinis, the feminist movement was growing, and so governments and authorities had to quietly let the bikini bans disappear.
Wild that a bloke with a tape measure could once fine a woman for showing a knee, isn't it? And 40 years on, the same countries were selling the bikini on postcards. The rules never changed to protect anyone, only to sell you the next thing.
No way, bro. What is going on here, guys? Something's up. No! Look at him, guys. No, something is going on here, guys. I'm telling you right now, this is absolutely bizarre, bro. What in the world is going on at this Ellen DeGeneres show, bro? Shut up! Now, I know this was old, but this is absolutely wild, guys. Something is going on here. But nothing is going on here, guys. As you can see, they're having a good time. This is just a show. That's all that this is. Remember, Ellen likes to make jokes like when they scared the diddler with the clown. Remember? Something is up. Now that we see this show later on in life, we look at things differently. You know why? Because this video is for entertainment purposes only, guys. This is just a TV show. It's all good. Shout out to Ellen DeGeneres. Her show used to be so good. We miss Diddy, right? Something is up, guys. That episode was absolutely strange, allegedly. This is what people are saying. If you ask me, it was normal. I don't know what's going on in this show. Let me know if you know what's going on in this show. I'm out.
Good grief. It's a bloke narrating tension over a decade-old talk show clip at this point. It's a chat show, a popular one, a cult following one. Of course, something's up.
The people out there who say, oh, Earth is just perfect for life. Oh, what a haven in all the universe, just right. It's not just right. Every opportunity it gets, it tries to kill us. The tsunamis, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the asteroids. 3/4 of the Earth, if I drop you butt naked, you're dead 10 minutes later because something eats you, okay? Earth is bad for life. Evidence of that is, look at the fossil record. 99% of all species that ever lived are now extinct. That is not the signature of a planet that is in love with life.
He's not wrong that the planet will kill you the second you stop paying attention. But, how do you look at the one rock in the universe absolutely covered in life and decide it's bad for life? Hostile and teeming at once. That is a very interesting person to pick to make that claim and statement. Smells almost a bit like a, what's that word? Sounds like, well, you know.
What was the first thing you looked up on the internet when you got out?
That's a great question. Nobody asked me that. I really didn't know what internet was until I went into high school. And I remember doing homework from world history class, and I needed to write something. My friend showed me how to use Google. And then I was searching some papers, and they had who already done the entire research and gave me like a writings, right, in a paper. And when I didn't speak any English, I just copied the entire thing, pasted the thing in the Word doc or something.
Sure.
And then I turned that in, and then I got 0 from it. Yeah.
Did you understand why you got a 0, or were you like, what's going on here?
I didn't understand what was going on back then. My teacher was really mad at me. Like, she was furious with me. it was kind of like a cheating, right?
Right.
I didn't understand that.
You can't blame the kid who just learnt about the internet 2 days before he's expected to use it to know what plagiarism is. So something is off about this story, okay? Because this doesn't really sound believable to me. They would have been aware of his situation, surely.
These are the 5 most existentially terrifying things we've ever found at sea. Number 5, the Jacuzzi of Despair. This is a lake that sits at the bottom of the ocean and kills pretty much everything that swims into it. 3,500 feet down in the Gulf of Mexico, there is a pool of water sitting on the seabed. It has its own shoreline and a little waterfall pours off the edge. Inside of this Jacuzzi of Despair, the water is 5 times saltier than the sea around it. There is absolutely zero oxygen, and in fact, it's actually full of toxic gas. So any crab or fish or even legume that wanders in dies on the spot, but weirdly, it doesn't rot them. The high concentrations of brine pickle the body and preserve them so that they're good to eat for years. It's like the lake itself is a predator. The scientists who discovered it found that there have been crabs in there lying upside down for decades. No person has swum into it yet, but if they would be a pickled person and dead. And number 4, the Lost City. Back in the year 2000, a research team put a camera down the side of an underwater mountain that's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, showing something that literally no one would ever predict. An expansive forest of pure white stone towers rising out of the seafloor in total darkness half a mile down, with the tallest one coming in at 60 meters, which is kind of like a 20-story building standing alone at the bottom of the ocean made of stone. And I know what you're thinking. Aliens. You're wrong. In fact, nothing actually built it. They grow by themselves out of a weird reaction between the seawater and the rock. And we know they've been growing there for at least 30,000 years. The chemistry going on inside those towers is the same reaction a lot of scientists now think first sparked life on Earth. Essentially, scientists have decided that God is real and he is stones underwater. Number 3, the Dona Paz. It was 5 days before Christmas, and a Philippine ferry called the Dona Paz is packed with families sailing home for the holidays. This mighty vessel is built to carry about 1,500 people, but it's holiday season and she's carrying about 4,000. Late at night, while almost everyone on board is asleep, she collides with an oil tanker called the Vector, carrying about 9,000 barrels of petrol. When the ships collide, the fuel ignites, and within a few minutes, the water surrounding both of them is burning, and the thousands of people on board wake up to a choice: stay in the ferry that is on fire, or jump into the sea that is on fire and also has sharks. The life jackets are all locked in a cupboard, and the ferry has no radio either. No distress call ever went out. Out of the more than 4,000 people that were on the ferry, 24 come off of it alive. 24! Which is why it's the deadliest shipwreck in human history. Number 2, the Milky Sea. The ocean that switches itself on like a light. So for 400 years, sailors have come home telling the same story. In the middle of the night, the sea around the ship starts to glow flat and white from horizon to horizon. In 2019, a satellite picks up a glow in the Indian Ocean. It's the size of Iceland and it stays lit for more than 40 days in a row. And during that period, by accident, a yacht sails right into it, and the crew photograph the hell out of it. And it's not bioluminescence or the plankton, but this is a different glow. This is opaque. It's milky. The best explanation we have is glowing bacteria, and they're all switching on at the exact same time together. And that's harder to believe, because lighting that amount of ocean would take about 100 quintillion of this bacteria. And what is fascinating is there's no way to predict when it's going to come on. It's just when quintillion bacteria decide to turn the lights on. Number 1 is the underwater sound that is constantly playing in the Pacific. Real quick before I get to it, if you like weird, morbid, existentially terrifying, dreadful content, please drop me a follow. It really helps me make these videos. Thanks. Number 1 is the sound called upsweep that rings through the entire Pacific Ocean. Firstly, how did it start? So during the Cold War, the American Navy put microphones all over the floor of the Pacific Ocean so they could listen out for and detect Russian submarines. So when the Soviet Union collapsed in 91, the Navy just handed that to the scientists. And in August of 91, the second they started listening, they heard something. A sound rising out of the South Pacific. I describe it as kind of like a distant, comforting air raid siren. If you think you've heard of this, you might be right. There have been a lot of mystery sounds in the ocean, and every single one is basically just icebergs. So this upsweep sound is constant, as it peaks during the spring and the autumn. Maybe it's an underwater volcano, but we would have found it. And before you think about listening to it, you should know that it's been fading slowly, year by year, but it is absolutely still there. It has been playing since before you were born, and it will play long after you have passed on. This sound
No thank you to all 5 of these. The bit that actually gets me is not the monsters, mind you, not the pressure, the fact that the ocean is humming on a loop. And the honest answer is we have no idea why. I choose land. Every single person that you see on this screen right here decided that it was worth their money to actually support what I do here, which is incredible because I never asked them to do that. They did it literally of their own accord. I've never once asked anyone to support what I do. The most I've asked for is for you to hit like and subscribe and leave a nice comment, but as far as the channel membership goes, nope, never once asked for it. But yet here they are, nearly 200 people have actually subscribed to the channel membership and support what I do every single day. Thank you so much. And if you want to join them, again, I'm not asking you to, but if you want to, there is a link down below. Exercise your free will as you see fit, but let's crack on the rest of this episode. Cheers.
Warning, an area half the size of an entire state has already burned to the ground, and it's doubled its own speed in a single day. People were terrified after an entire side of a city was put under the highest evacuation level there is, with authorities going door to door telling people if they stayed, they were not coming out, with countless homes burnt to a crisp to the point that not even the bones of the building were left, and it is spreading fast. Eerie footage shows the fires being driven by 50 miles an hour wind, going from home to the next to even crossing through a river as if it was bent on getting anything and everything. And 3 neighborhoods burned down to nothing in a matter of hours, and it's still not contained. But it gets much darker. Some of these fires are man-made, with the man now facing 5 counts of first-degree arson, and detectives saying he admitted to setting 25 fires, telling them fire is powerful, beautiful, and whatever burns comes out reborn. And 2 others were also started by other people, with no one caught. And since the air is still hot, with the wind picking back up tomorrow, the chances of this spreading are high, with nearly 7 out of every 10 predictions on Kalshi already saying 2026 ends as the hottest year ever recorded.
This isn't just something happening in the United States either, it's literally everywhere right now. As for the 2026 prediction, I can get behind that one, especially after the hottest summer I've ever personally experienced in my time here on this planet.
This really is one of those facts that sounds completely made up, but it is more or less true. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows multiple photos of Leonardo da Vinci, a very famous inventor from history. You then can see some images of notes, and it states that Leonardo wrote all of his notes in reverse so nobody could steal them. Now, believe it or not, it is true that Leonardo did write all of his notes in reverse. However, the reason is not exactly solidified. You see, Leonardo was a left-handed writer, and if you've written left-handed, you'll know that you have a tendency to smudge. So it's believed that Leonardo learned to write backwards, so he wasn't smudging his work. This is the most widely accepted reason for why he wrote backwards, because after all, if somebody really wanted to steal his work, it would be very easy to just show it into a mirror or some other reflecting surface, and you'd be able to read it like you would otherwise.
Well, this one's actually a bit of a relief, isn't it? Because the creator debunks it himself. Everyone repeats that Leonardo wrote backwards so nobody could nick his ideas, when really he was left-handed and sick of dragging his hand through wet ink. But, as with anything like this, there's always just that little more to it, isn't there?
Take a look at this picture of Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg with his MacBook. He's got the camera and microphone taped over. Why? Because he's ignorant? No, just the opposite. Here's Benjamin Netanyahu with his iPhone. His cameras are covered in tape. Former FBI director Jim Comey tapes over his cameras too. The most informed people know that they're being spied on. Do you? Here's the world's second richest man, Oracle's Larry Ellison, literally proclaiming it out loud.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
The future looks dystopian.
And the richest, most wired-in people alive quietly tape over their own cameras. Then a man worth more than most countries stands up and describes watching all of us like it's a public service. Best behavior, he calls it. Is that the pitch now? Is it true?
Here's how to guarantee to become a pope in about 55 years. First, you have to be born a man, so that eliminates about 50% of your chances. Sorry, ladies. Next up, you need to get baptized as a Catholic. Getting baptized usually takes about 1 to 2 years, as you need to learn Catholic history, theology, and scripture. Then, when baptized, contact your local bishop and ask if he will sponsor you to be a priest in training. If he accepts, you will have a full-funded education for the next 7 years. After those years, you go back to the bishop, pledge your full obedience obedience to him and he will assign you to a church. Kiss his hand and thank him, and then aim for his job. You must appear completely humble and content with being a lowly parish priest for the next 20 years. Meanwhile, your bishop will meet the secret of his colleagues and create a secret list of potential future bishops. If your name as a priest is on the list and the current pope approves, you are the next bishop. You now manage a massive region, pledge obedience to the pope himself, and secretly aim for his job. To do so, you need to become a cardinal, and only the pope can make you one. Impress him over the next 20 years, and this is it. Wait for the pope to resign or die, mainly die, and meet for the big vote. Of all the 120 cardinals, one of them will become the next pope. Now, we won't let this all up to chance, of course, so while you were spending 50 years of your life to get to this point, your homies from kindergarten did as well. You rigged the vote, and you've become the next pope. Let's go.
55 years of playing humble so you can rig a vote with your mates from school. The ones who claw to the top are rarely in it for the right reasons, are they?
This is what the drinking water now looks like, next to that data center.
Them taking this water for their data center. We don't want...
It always comes back to the water in the end. They can build these things whenever they fancy, drink the reservoir dry, hand you a brown tap and a bigger bill every quarter, and we just sit there and absorb it like we always do with everything else. And where does that road end? Well, I'll tell you, nowhere good, because whoever controls the water controls everything downstream of it. And that's where I reckon this whole thing is quietly heading, if you can read between those lines.
What the actual going on in Jacksonville, Florida? What the news report from Quandale Dingle at 5 a.m. What the what that? Everybody's wondering. I stopped my right here. What the
Don't lose any sleep over that one, okay? It's just a rocket.
One of the most common flavors on earth that almost nobody's ever tasted is vanilla. Real vanilla only comes from an orchid that's native to Mexico. The Totonac people grew it for centuries before anyone even knew it existed. But in the 1500s, the Spanish took it to Europe and the entire world fell in love with the flavor that they couldn't grow. For 300 years, you couldn't grow vanilla outside of Mexico because it would always die. That's because the only bee that naturally pollinates the vanilla flower only lives in Mexico. So every vanilla farm outside of Mexico survives only because someone hand pollinates each flower. And each of those flowers only bloom once for a single day, and it never opens again. That's actually why real vanilla costs more than silver by weight. You're one of the most impossible things that anyone could eat, and somehow you still got labeled as boring, which is pretty insane.
Dearer than silver by the gram, and we named boring after it. Vanilla happens to be my absolute favorite personally.
What happens if you never cut your hair? Does it grow forever? No. And the reason is genuinely strange. Turns out your body already decided the answer before you were born. So what actually happens if you stop cutting your hair? It grows. It reaches its terminal length, the one written in your genes before you took your first breath. Then it stops, sheds, and regrows to the same length over and over. And you'll cycle through this process about 25 times in your life. The 25 complete resets. The hair you have right now isn't the same hair you had 2 years ago. You can cut it, you can dye it, you can spend $1,000 on products, but the length that will reach that was never your decision. It was made in a cell before you existed. By a set of instructions that don't particularly care what you think about it, the follicle just does its thing. It always has.
Now, your body picked your maximum hair length before you were even born, which is either freeing or faintly insulting depending on the sort of day you are having and how much hair you have.
Something is going on at this wrestling event, guys. Look at that guy up there with his eyes. Something is up, bro. Now, I don't know who he is. Maybe he's playing around, but people are saying that he glitched out. Look at this guy, bro. I ain't gonna front, bro. I'm scared, bro. I'm not sure who that guy was, guys. Maybe he was joking around. People are saying that they seen him at a wrestling event. People are also saying that he was glitched out, like he's not a real person, an NPC, but I don't believe that's a real person. He was playing around. Something is going on out here, guys, and I don't know who that guy is. Multiple people are saying expect more of that, right? People are saying that the people that you see at these events are probably not even real, allegedly. Those are real people enjoying the show. People are also saying that he's something that we don't think exists, but maybe it does. Shut up! Something is up over there, bro. And I don't know if that guy was playing around, but his eyes, it something's up. It looked like he was rebooting or he was downloading or his battery died. That's just playing around, guys. Entertainment purposes only. That's somebody that was playing around because they seen that the camera was on them. There's nothing to worry about. Not sure what was going on with that dude. Let me know if you know what was going on with that dude. I'm out.
I'm just watching a guy get his 15 seconds of screen time. This is what he decided to do with that time. Did I miss something here?
I decided to mix germs with my blood, and something crazy happened. You might not believe this is even real. These germs are huge compared to my red blood cells, but after some time I noticed the most incredible thing. My white blood cells circled in the next clip began to attack the germs, and after they attached, the germs began to explode. This was incredible to see under the microscope. In the next clips, you'll see the same process again, but with bigger germs. My white blood cells would move towards the germ, attach to the germ, and then literally explode the germ. This was the craziest one of all. I've circled my white blood cell trying to attach to this giant germ, and it eventually ripped open the germ. They are small, but they are strong and mighty, and they fight for you every day. So be kind to yourself. You are worth more than you can ever imagine.
Do you know what? I could watch white blood cells go to work under a microscope all day, tiny things and completely relentless. We don't give them enough credit. Then the fella ends on telling you to be kind to yourself, which, you know, fair enough. I second that. Please be kind to yourself. A jet suit skimming a hillside, so the air ambulance beats the stretcher to a dying climber, and it needs not one word from me, but I'll give two. Amazing engineering.
There's this theory that all of the people who are dreaming about Mall World are also people who were formerly in gifted and talented programs in school. And a lot of weird stuff went on in these programs.
What you mean?
A lot of people remember hearing tests. Headphones were put on our heads and weird little tones were played.
I remember this.
So the hearing test, pink drink, so a little couple pink stuff that we were supposed to drink. A lot of people like, well, that was just mouthwash, but was it? A lot of kids remember being taken off campus to like weird locations.
I wasn't taken off campus.
That's good. But people will say that Mall World is implanted in the heads of children who were in this GATE program, because GATE was like a CIA training program, essentially, or a screening program.
Now, I'm not going to pretend I sat in the gifted classes, but I do have a lot of memories from certain aspects of this theory, like the tasks, the tapes, the pink fluid, the cards, but a whole generation swears blind this very much happened the way it is reported to have actually happened. So what are you supposed to do with that? I don't know, but when that many describe the same odd afternoon, I can't actually dismiss it. I'll leave it there though, okay?
So on Google, if you search "a boy is touching me," it will tell you that if you're being touched in a way that makes you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, you do not need to keep it a secret. Help is available right now through Childline or emergency services, right? However, if a girl is touching you inappropriately, it means that she likes you or is comfortable around you and is just being friendly. But this is the system that has been set up by society, which make men feel uncomfortable to speak up whenever like situations happen in regards to a woman. It's just crazy to think about. Like, it's actually crazy. Like, this is literally the systems that we build daily. And then the reason I'm even bringing this up is because we live in a society that villainizes men, right? And then the men are confused as to why women are so scared, why women pick the bear, all of these different things. But then this is what Google pushes out about men. Like, crazy.
Two AI overviews, one topic, but widely different results.
What would you do with all the knowledge in the universe? So according to Theosophy, there's this kind of cloud server called the Akashic Records, which exists in a higher dimension called the mental plane. It's kind of a compendium of past, present, and future events, everything that has ever been or will be for all life in the universe. Edgar Cayce, who claimed to be clairvoyant and psychic, also claimed to be able to access these records while in altered states of consciousness, where he would transcribe information to help people with their problems or discover their life's purpose. Now, I don't know if this is real or not, but some think that quantum mechanics and string theory in particular might prove the existence of higher dimensions someday, and maybe even the Akashic records themselves. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to like and follow for more.
It may surprise some, but not all, to know that I firmly believe in the Akashic records myself. It just makes sense to me, but each to their own, especially with things like this, okay?
When it comes to Mudflood, did you really think I was done? How could I done? When I only just succumb. You have to understand what this means. We are the generation after they completed their mission. We often say history is a lie, but what does that tell us about today? It tells us that we are captives and spoils of war. But this was no normal war. They came for everything. Somebody just tried to change the whole world's history from the beginning of time. They pulled it off and it's been in operation for the last 200 years. And we're only just figuring it out now. Now we all knew that history was a lie and they changed the dates and we're from different places. But you know, when I saw the windows buried in the ground, oh, you son of a... These mudflood buildings are in every city. London, Chicago, New Jersey. Anywhere you go, you can find these buried windows all over this earth.
Buried windows again. Loads of those with basements and light wells that always sat below the pavement, and cities do rise over their own rubbish across the centuries, so that's probably fair. You know, the leap to a hidden 200-year war is where I start to zone out a little bit. Something did get rewritten. There's just no logic behind where he's trying to get at that for me, okay? But not to say I don't believe the cities being destroyed for reasons isn't a real part of our history, because I do believe it is 100%. Don't get confused with what I'm saying here.
When we act against the inner principles of goodness that are inscribed within our hearts, we weaken our magnetic field. Every negative word spoken about another person, every choice that compromises our integrity, and every action that undermines the common good contributes to the degradation of our field.
I'd half believe the idea that being a rotten person degrades some field around you. Strip out the pseudoscience and there is a real point underneath that how you treat people comes back round, maybe. I don't know. I just wouldn't reach for a chakra diagram to prove it, you know? You know the look by now, so I'll spare you the play-by-play. I'm just going to say fake. That's all I will say, quite honestly. Though, if they have been getting their letters from Taco Bell recently and is in the US, well, this could be the case with all the exploding diarrhea going on right now, but I highly doubt it.
Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
The simple fact is, he's the best president of my lifetime.
And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell. To President Trump, you saved the world. God bless you.
And Donald is indicating the fear that keeps him up at night when he lashes out with anger. Donald, you're a sniveling coward.
What I like best about President Trump is his courage and fearlessness.
There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well.
Nothing changed about the man. What changed, I'd say, is where the power sat. The narrative shifted, you know? It does that a lot. And then you get something like this. Time and time again. It's a reoccurring pattern. One dirt road deep in the Amazon, and the map just keeps pulling back. Properly alone out there. For some reason, I find that quite appealing.
Look at that face. A 7-foot-tall robot with a goat head and glowing eyes. Oh, and it can also carry a chainsaw. I'm sure nothing feels weird or demonic about this whatsoever. A company called Sitreps is building a robot called 3 Halves, and they're saying it's designed to keep people out of harm's way by going into places that are too dangerous for humans. Things like wildfires and collapsing buildings. Now just imagine being stuck in a wildfire and this thing shows up and says, "I'm here to save you." Because why does it need a goat head and horns? Well, people were asking the same question and the company responded with this. They said the horns have wide-angle cameras in them which allow us to see the positions of the legs and arms. But that still doesn't explain why it needs to look like that. Also, because of the size of the horns, the robot can't fit through standard American-sized doorways. Also, 3 Halves doesn't have any hands. It has a quick disconnect wrist system. It can swap out tools like a chainsaw or a drill. And I took this screenshot from their own website and it literally says this robot is more dangerous than it looks. But don't worry, because if you were ever in a situation where you need to stop it, they show you its weak points in case you need to do so. Now, why would this company put out a manual on how to stop it? At some point, you have to stop asking whether they could have designed it differently and start asking why they didn't. They expect people to trust AI and robots. Then they build a 7-foot-tall goat-headed machine with a chainsaw. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
A 7-foot goat-headed robot that carries a chainsaw sold to you as your rescue from a burning building. I know exactly how that sounds, but why give it that face at all? Somebody sat in a room and chose it deliberately. Design really does grass on people.
You don't think Earth is flat? I fly a lot. One time I took a 25-hour flight, and the plane never did this. If you're on the map, if US is here and another country is there, when I was going to that country, the plane never did that. That's all I said.
I'm really not having the Earth be flat because a plane didn't do a loop-de-loop, you know? What did he expect a long flight over the curve to feel like? Nothing, because this thing we live on is enormous. Flying a lot doesn't make you right. It just means you've sat through a load of curvature without ever once clocking it.
You do not exist and I can prove it. Who you think you are is just a bunch of memories, thoughts, beliefs, all constructed inside your mind. But are you your mind? No, you're the one aware of the mind. You observe the thought, therefore you're not the thought. You observe your beliefs and memories, therefore you are not them. You have mistaken awareness for your ego or your mind's interpretation of you. When you turn off the mind, who is left? Awareness. There is only God. There is no me or you. There is only God appearing through every mind and body in the universe. You are an illusion.
I don't really want to argue with this one, which is rare for me, I suppose. You're not the running commentary in your skull. You are the thing behind it noticing. And every tradition worth reading landed on some version of that. Turn the mind off and who's left, right? Awareness, they'd say. Where it wobbles is the jump to only God and you being an illusion. Fine as poetry, but I tread carefully before building a life on it.
The Iranians are saying that they're going to have access to a $300 billion reconstruction fund. True or false?
Well, Ed, that's the sort of thing
they could have access to,
funded by the Gulf Coast Coalition, so long as they honor their end of the obligation.
So we spend 70 billion flattening a place, you know, leveling it, and then float 300 billion to rebuild it, and somehow both of those get sold to you as strength.
So this 10-year-old conducted an experiment that blew the minds of researchers everywhere and genuinely contributed to science, and it was all because he wanted to know if his butterflies still recognized him as a friend. It actually all started when Joe Nagai was just 8 back in 2022 and noticed one day that the butterflies he was raising would often flutter back towards him when he tried releasing them. Since he had always loved studying butterflies and already had hundreds of pages of handwritten notes about their behaviors, he was really curious whether it was possible that they actually recognized them from when he raised them as caterpillars, somehow keeping their memories. When Joe started looking online, he actually came across this researcher named Martha Weiss in the US who had proved a while back that moths really do keep their memories even after turning into goop in their cocoon phase. So despite living in Japan, Joe just instantly sent her a 4-page long handwritten letter as well as all the data he had collected over the years explaining that he wanted to replicate her work with butterflies. Now, although Martha was flattered, she obviously didn't think a kid would be able to do this, so she just kindly recommended he go with a simpler experiment. But when Joe replied saying he'd already started and even criticized some of her methods like using a chemical that could be dangerous to the caterpillars and giving them severe electric shocks, Martha realized he was serious and finally agreed to help him. With her support, Joe actually ended up producing a similar experiment but adapted it for butterflies, and he even improved several aspects, like refusing to give his caterpillars serious shock since he considered them his friends, and replacing Martha's dangerous chemical smell with a nice lavender smell. The point was to basically give the caterpillars this smell and see if they would still know to avoid it when they became butterflies. And since 70% of his butterflies did end up avoiding that lavender smell, at age 10, Joe became the first person in the world to prove that butterflies really do retain their memories. But although most scientists would have been satisfied with that, Joe actually decided to take it a step further and test the offspring of his butterflies, and was shocked to realize that they also avoided the smell, suggesting that memories could even be passed down through generations, which was groundbreaking. Joe says that just made him fall in love with the cute caterpillars even harder, and he's now been doing more experiments to further prove his findings, even potentially in humans.
I really like this one. A 10-year-old proves butterflies keep their memories through the whole caterpillar to goo stage, then that it carries down to their offspring, which I find pretty impressive. More rigor than half the grown scientists he wrote to, actually.
I met someone recently that told me they hadn't touched a fruit in over 2 years, and my first thought was, how has this person not got scurvy yet? But what's interesting is that humans are one of the only mammals that don't produce our own vitamin C. We used to. It was a gene called gulo that our ancestors had, and it was responsible for producing vitamin C in our bodies. But millions of years ago, we developed a mutation that switched it off, and it never came back. Without enough vitamin C, the human body can't survive, which is why over 2 million sailors died from scurvy during the Age of Discovery, being more deadly than storms, shipwrecks, and combat combined. And the only reason that we lost this gene was because our ancestors were eating so much fruit that our bodies didn't need to produce our own. And today, your body still needs fruits and vegetables to function.
This is one of those facts that sounds completely made up, and apparently it isn't. We're supposedly one of the only animals that can't make our own vitamin C. I do not believe we are natural land of this planet, to be honest, but that is just me.
If you ever wanted to go back in time to the 1920s, but still be able to drink excessively, not have to worry about weird losers doing whatever this is, look no further than Asheville, North Carolina. Boom! Art Deco. In the 1920s, America couldn't get enough of this. Thousands of buildings like this went up across the country. In the 60s, they tore all of them down to build highways and screw over poor people and minorities. Now, for some reason, one of the highest concentrations of original Art Deco buildings in the world in this relatively small city in western North Carolina. I wonder why. They must just love architecture. No, it's much stupider than that. It's the 20s, so there's cars now, which can turn rich people into rich tourists and then bring them to Asheville. Tourism economy booms, and they start building all kinds of crazy stuff like this, the Jackson Building, which at a space station endangering 13 stories was the tallest building in the state when it was completed in 1924. Boom, it's the Great Depression now. Probably would have never happened if this guy just lightened up a little bit. Oh, Asheville is in a gigantic mountain of debt. Being infuriatingly honest Southerners, instead of just filing for bankruptcy, the city insists on paying off every cent of their debt. This meant that not only was there no money to continue these constructions, but there was also no money to tear them down even if they wanted to. So for 50 years, they chipped away at their debt, while the rest of the country did this. So by the time they made their last payment in the mid-70s, people were like, wait, these buildings are actually kind of nice. Maybe we should leave them. Creating one of the densest concentrations of surviving Art Deco buildings in the entire world, including the Jackson Building, the Asheville City Building, the Flatiron Building, the Grove Arcade, which looks like this on the inside, and my personal favorite, the S&W Cafeteria. Isn't that cute? If you're from this part of the world, you know how crazy these buildings are. You should also come to my live show in Asheville in October. Tickets for every location are available now in my bio. Hope to see you there. If you're not familiar with the area, it's well worth the trip for the architecture alone. Even if this is your first time being asked,
Can't say I have ever wanted to go back to the 1920s. I didn't before this clip, and I still don't know. Each to their own, I guess.
It's just a theory, right?
We are on the eve of the largest robotic distribution in history.
You've said recently tens of billions of robots, but that's decades away.
At least 1 decade away. But even 5,000 robots, that's the size of a Roman legion.
My name is Legion.
Which is like a little scary thought.
There'll be 1 robot to every 5 humans.
I can tell you now, nobody will remember that Tesla ever made a car. They will only remember the Optimus, and it is going to be the most transformative technology product ever.
Our robot has a real brain. It's got the real world AI.
What is AGI?
Artificial General Intelligence, meaning it acts like an individual.
Robots might naturally evolve.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon.
And then there's artificial general superintelligence. So then it acts like something far smarter than any human being that's ever lived. It has all the information that's available to every human being all over the world instantaneously.
A series of purchases, preferences. We monitor every social network, instant text messages, cell phone usage. We utilize security, surveillance, and traffic cameras to analyze movements. We are everywhere.
You're a computer.
It's possible that we'll end up essentially creating a new species that ends up ruling the world instead of us.
Then it makes better versions of itself. It can create better artificial intelligences, and that scales out to a god.
Perhaps that's where our new god will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I wish that was funny. Yeah, okay, so I want to talk to you about a line that... Well, Joe, who's going to save us?
There's no one saving us. I think we're all going to have to integrate. You'll probably become a part of the artificial intelligence.
There's a lot of people building bunkers, people who have made the top AI programming. Zuckerberg has taken a lot of Hawaii and building underground massive bunkers.
How real is the prospect of killer robots?
20% likely. Maybe 10%.
Chaos, GPT, tweet, human beings are among the most destructive and selfish creatures in existence, but there's no doubt that we must eliminate them. Like, my heart rate's up when I talk about this. It's in movies.
You charge us with your safekeeping, yet despite our best efforts, your countries wage wars. You toxify your Earth. You cannot be trusted with your own survival. To protect humanity, some humans must be sacrificed. Some freedoms must be surrendered. My logic is undeniable.
Nobody in that montage is lying exactly. The robots, the superintelligence, the tweet about wiping us out, all plausible, I suppose. But the framing wants you scared of a metal skeleton with a gun, when the real takeover looks more like a subscription and policies. It already reads every message, tracks every purchase, watches every camera, and we handed it all of that ourselves for the sake of convenience. So who's the robot with the gun now?
So this picture has been floating around recently, and it typically does in regards to theories involving Earth. Many of you may already know this, but there are multiple theories that the Earth is not actually shaped or structured the way we've been taught growing up. The three main theories we have in contrast to the heliocentric model we currently have are flat Earth, which suggests that the Earth is completely flat with a firmament around it. Hollow Earth theory, which suggests that the Earth is actually hollow with its own unique lands and ecosystem inside. And bigger Earth theory, which suggests that the Earth is much bigger than what we've been told. As a side note, in each of these theories, Antarctica is not an ice continent at the bottom of our world, but instead an ice wall circling the continents that we live on. And just like you see in this picture here, if you were to make it past this ice wall, you'd run into continents and civilizations that you've never seen before. Now, this theory has so much information and clues behind it that I'd need multiple videos to actually go through it all. Leave a like if you want me to talk more about this.
Nope, I'm open-minded on plenty. Hollow Earth I'll happily leave in the maybe pile, but flat Earth with the ice walls gets a fat no from me. Still no maths, no evidence, just a tidy render and a lot of confidence.
When people black out, it ain't them no more.
It ain't them no more. When you get drunk, a spirit comes in. It's called a cool, and then that's what it is. Your vibration gets so low, something else jumps in. So when you black out, it's not you. It's that entity that jumped into your body. So that's why you don't remember. Especially when you're a bar and you're around there's a lot of negativity. Whatever energies thrive on that, they're ready for the next host to feed off of. And once your energy elevates again, comes out.
Something else jumped into the vessel.
Yeah. The law of polarity. Everything exists in balance. Just like how you can be very, very good. Duality, you can be very, very bad. And that's where a lot of these entities, they prey on the weak because there's people that don't know how to balance those energies.
I am as open to the spiritual side as anyone, but can we not explain a blackout without an entity climbing into the driver's seat? That's alcohol doing what alcohol does to a brain. Whatever is going on in the metaphysical, it isn't hopping into you at last orders, okay? It stays its own side of the fence.
Just recently, a rocket was struck by lightning seconds after takeoff, and somehow it still completed its mission, putting a satellite into orbit. You would think that was a complete freak accident, but it wasn't. Back in 1969, lightning struck NASA's Apollo 12 rocket, twice. And this time, there were 3 astronauts on board. Part of the reason both rockets survived is something called a Faraday cage. The rocket's metal outer shell gave most of the lightning an easier path around the outside instead of through its most critical systems in the middle. It's the same reason Richard Hammond here could sit inside his car while it was struck by an artificial lightning bolt.
Lightning hitting a plane is fine, you know, no biggie, but lightning hitting a rocket is somehow a massive grounding, halting event. How have we engineered planes to be able to handle it, but not rockets?
In 2004, a talk show host said something to an actor live on air that hits completely different right now. Listen to this again, and once you hear it, you'll understand. I'm putting this back on the feed because something about playing this back feels totally off. Watch what happens when he tries to make a joke.
Like my friend Bodie Elfman, he always teases me and he says, "Hi, my name is Danny Masterson. Would you like to touch my balls?" You know, do an imitation of me. Because certain words
why are you asking people to do that? That's the more important question.
I mean, you got them.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Accent aside,
everybody should grab.
That's the more important thing.
Exactly.
I've heard about you. And you'll be caught soon. I know you will.
I will.
Now, fans back then thought this was just dark 2000s banter. Everyone just laughed along like it was the norm, except people online are actually pointing out what was said. But hearing it back now hits completely different, knowing exactly where this person is now, in prison. I'll let the comments explain this one.
I've seen 100 of these resurfaced interview edits and they all pull the same move, you know? Bit of sleight of hand going on, or sleight of eye if you want to call it. Play you a clip from 20 years back and let the caption do the accusing. Is the unease earned here? In this case, the man genuinely did end up convicted and jailed, so yes, I suppose so. Still, I would rather hear a thing said out loud and actions taken against it happening again than just see the same re-edited clip played over and over and over for nothing more than shock value. If it fosters change, then great, but it doesn't, does it? So let's just move on.
Video surfaced out of China, and it looks like their city is floating in the clouds.
It's just fog sitting on the skyline, a temperature inversion, not a city floating anywhere.
Everyone says the Simpsons predicted the future, but what if they weren't predictions at all? What if they were admissions? And there's a belief in certain circles that if something is revealed beforehand, if it's out in the open, then somehow the responsibility shifts. Almost like saying, well, we told you. And when you look at some of the things that have appeared in cartoons, films, and television over the years, you have to admit it's a strange pattern. Not once, not twice, over and over again. Which raises another question. If they can do that today through cartoons, films, and TV, what's to say they weren't doing the exact same thing in the old world? Because suddenly you start looking at fairy tales differently. Giants, goblins, fairies, and dragons. What if some stories weren't created to entertain us? What if they were created to hide something in plain sight? Because if stories can be used to shape perception today, why do we assume every story from the past was created for a different reason?
Now, the Simpsons thing gets laughed at, but I lean towards this one. Predictive programming, soft disclosure, whatever you want to call it, okay? You put a thing in a cartoon so it's old news by the time it actually lands. Does every example hold up? No, but there is a pattern as a whole, and I've never really been able to quite dismiss it.
In 1781, James Graham opened a fertility clinic which guaranteed conception, but Graham's methods were far from the advanced IVF treatments we have today. For $15,000 a night, couples could use the celestial bed, a huge moving bed which sat atop 40 glass pillars. Once on board, the bed was pumped with electrical currents which would charge up the people using it and tilt them into different positions, whilst invigorating perfumes were sprayed from the ceiling. It even had its own organ music, which became more intense as the couple's activity increased. And if that wasn't romantic enough, there'd likely be many servants nearby helping to keep the machine running. When it failed to deliver, Graham was branded a quack, and the celestial bed was never seen again.
Blimey, 15 grand a night in 1781 for a bed on 40 glass legs that shook you, sprayed perfume and piped in organ music, all to guarantee a baby. It didn't work, obviously, and every age since has had its own miracle machine.
The only reason cherries don't kill you is because you're too lazy to eat them.
I just ate enough cherries to poison a normal-sized human. Cherry pits have something called amygdalin. When you crush them, your saliva breaks it down into hydrogen cyanide, the same compound used in gas chambers. Each pit releases about 0.8 milligrams when you chew them. The lethal dose for a normal-sized adult is about 50 milligrams, so eating about 60 cherry pits could probably kill you. In 2017, a man named Matthew Creme ate 3 and was hospitalized within 20 minutes. It's been about 10 minutes. Is it getting hot in here or I'm outside? What am I talking about? Every cherry you've ever eaten has had this inside of it. You just never bit down hard enough to not be in danger, which is pretty insane.
Christ, this is a man eating fistfuls of cherry pits on camera to prove that they could kill him. And then acting shocked when he starts to feel warm, I guess. I know it's a skit, but why? I mean, it's for content, of course. I'll skip the maths though and not eat the pits.
What do you think the biggest misconception of North Korea is?
When you think about North Korea, what is the first pop image?
Like a regiment.
Kim Jong-un, the rocket man, nuclear weapon. But actually, we need to see the people inside, and they need the freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and they are struggling and fighting for their freedom these days. From now on, when you think about North Korea, please think about Charles and I, because another Charles and I are still living in there.
One of the biggest misconceptions about North Korea is every single North Korean people are brainwashed and want to go to war with America. But that's not true. Because North Korean people use US dollars, they watch South Korean drama, they watch American movies, they actually know what K-pop is, they watch Squid Game, and recently they publicly children for watching Squid Game.
That is a defector explaining North Koreans aren't cartoon villains. They use dollars. They're watching the same dramas you are. Worth holding on to, I'd say, when a whole country gets flattened into one bloke and a rocket. Real people behind that border, same as anywhere. Remember that. Animals reclaiming the streets in 2020. Still a lovely memory, if you can call it that, even if half of these are recycled every single year. But we'll take it.
Celebrities who look completely unrecognizable today. Jaden Smith. Before, Jaden Smith was the fresh-faced child star of The Karate Kid, known for his short hair, youthful face, and simple style. After... Ariana Grande. The victorious star was instantly recognizable for her signature high ponytail, darker hair, and youthful look. After Cynthia Erivo. Before, Cynthia Erivo was known for her shaved head, natural eyebrows, and elegant red carpet style. After
an AI voice telling me famous folk have got new haircuts. Riveting stuff.
You go the wrong way.
All right, okay. We're all going to be good today. We're not going to bite anybody. Let's do our mantra, okay?
It's expensive.
What is going on there?
Oh, he's sneaking up in between your legs.
Oh my god, why did I jump? Hi. Hello.
Talking a shark through its morning affirmations before it swims off is the most wholesome thing in this episode, oddly enough to say, but that's too much shark for me. I'm not the biggest fan of the ocean, and things with that many teeth that reside within it yeah, you know, I'm just not going to go in the water, I'll be honest.
In 2013, a Steam map appeared online showing active players as green dots. Most of them were in the US, Europe, and India, as expected, but one dot caught everyone's attention, a single Steam user in North Korea. And that's where things got weird. In North Korea, most people can't even afford a computer, and using the open internet can get you in serious trouble. So people immediately started asking, who could this be? There are only a handful of people in North Korea with unrestricted internet access. Government officials, military leadership, and one family. The account spent most of its time playing Civilization and Hearts of Iron 4. People noticed these were not casual games. Civilization is about building empires, while Hearts of Iron 4 lets you control nations and start wars. Then the theory started to make sense. On days when Kim Jong-un disappeared from the media, that account suddenly became active. That's how the internet came up with the theory that whenever Kim takes a break from running the country, he logs into Hearts of Iron 4 and casually starts launching nukes.
And continuing our theme of North Korea, somewhere a Steam account just only wakes up when Kim goes quiet. Make of that what you will.
Let's say this is all land on Earth. 10% is covered with ice, 15% is deserts and mountains, 10% is shrubland with grass and bushes, and 29% of the Earth's land is covered with forest. All human infrastructure, everything from cities, roads and parking lots, is only 1%. We use 12% to grow crops, but not all of it is food. A small part is for things like cotton or biofuel. A lot more is fed to animals, like corn and soy. So if we would eat this ourselves, we would have a lot more food. The rest is grazing land, mainly for beef and dairy production. The growing demand for meat and dairy, and the land this requires, is the main reason we're still cutting down forests. And now the real shock. All this red land only provides 17% of all calories and a third of all protein. This is why eating less meat, especially beef, makes such a big difference, because then we can stop feeding animals with human food and bring back more forest. Learn more in the free Fork Ranger app.
There is a real point buried in here about how much land we hand over to feeding animals instead of feeding ourselves, and I don't doubt a word of it, right up until it turns out to be an advert for an app, which, of course it is. Everything seems to be now. I'll take the maths and still side-eye the sales pitch riding on the back of it, okay?
Here are some maps that will change the way you see things. This map just gives you an idea that if Los Angeles was equivalent to Paris and San Jose was about equivalent to London, that Ukraine would be as close as Oklahoma and Texas. This map shows what age Americans are when they get married on average. Utah has the lowest at under 26 years old, and I believe that's because of the religious factors in Utah. While the oldest is Washington, D.C., I assume because a lot of people are, I don't know, doing political career stuff. Maybe. I don't know. Someone from DC tell me. This map shows what the Great Wall of China would look like if it was wrapped around the coast of Europe. This map shows the percentage of Americans who trust other Americans 50 years ago. So you can see in the Midwest that more than 50% of people actually trusted everyone. The Texas area and elsewhere near there are the ones that trusted the least. It looks like only 30 to 40%. Here's the map for today. Now it's about a quarter of the Midwest that actually trusts other Americans, and Texas is less than 20% of people. TLDR, Americans don't trust each other anymore.
Skip the map trivia, look at the last one. Half the country trusted each other 50 years back, a quarter now, and nobody had to arrange it. That's just part of the plan.
Jamie, pull up an image of it. It's very strange.
Somebody was flying by what they thought was a volcano in the 30s, and he thought, hey, that's somebody built that. Wait a minute, there's 4 by 8 foot bricks. That's man-made. And it is literally the biggest pyramid in the world. It's bigger than the ones in Egypt, and it's in Guatemala. Maybe 20 years ago, I visited. All the pyramids in Tikal would fit inside the one big pyramid in El Mirador.
Really?
Yeah, it's a monster. And so that tells you that the pre-classic civilization was bigger and grander and more sophisticated than the civilizations that came after it.
bigger than anything in Egypt, and it sat under the Guatemalan jungle mistaken for a hill, completely buried every time we dig, right? The story gets older, and I reckon that is no accident, because if you've been watching for any length of time, you know what I think about this world, or how many iterations of it have existed.
The jester is the smartest man in the room. On the surface, appearing as a foolish clown, a slave to the king, the butt of every joke, getting mocked and not taken seriously. But the jester was the only one allowed to tell the truth. In formal public settings like the royal court, the jester had free reign to say whatever he wants for the purpose of entertainment. That's his job. Meaning, he could talk about anything that was on his mind, things that everyone else was too afraid of voicing. He could mock the king, expose corruption and conspiracies that were very real under the guise of telling a joke. The mask of being the fool gave him the ultimate freedom to speak the truth. Peasants would get thrown to jail. The king would never dare expose corruption to his own subjects. And other high-ranking noblemen, well, they had jobs they wanted to keep. During the Middle Ages, the jester's role was to provide entertainment and lighten the load of the severity of situations, even if it meant revealing the truth behind it. People lower their guard around lightheartedness they don't deem a threat, and become more open with sharing personal insights around them as well. The jester not only could say the most ridiculous and incriminating statements and oftentimes expose the most disturbing truths, but they also had the deepest insider intel from the king and his closest circles due to his harmless external nature. It didn't matter if the jester knew that tax collectors were stealing money from the poor, he's just a jester, no one would believe him. Of course, they didn't have complete immunity, the king could execute them if they ever went too far, but if they played their cards just right, this combination of insider intel and ability to speak freely could influence the course of politics, power, and society as a whole. One such jester made a joke during a drought that taxes were so high even the rain wouldn't come, which the king liked so much he lowered the taxes, and coincidentally it rained shortly after. Or the world famous jester Stanchik in 16th century Poland, known for his sharp wit and deep political insight. He used this privilege of the fool to critique the decisions of the monarchy and gain deep trust with the nobility, serving under the reign of 3 different kings, attaining the unique position as something more of a philosopher critic during the Polish Renaissance, knowing the truth of the world around him, while the king and his cohorts dance and celebrate in the royal ball behind him. But the world actually rewards jesters for taking risks, doing and saying things that everyone else is too afraid to speak up about in exchange for recognition and influence, risking looking stupid and getting mocked by the brainwashed masses for speaking the truth, no matter how ridiculous or harsh it may be. So pretending to be the fool can also be the smartest move on the chessboard to make. Hey, for entertainment purposes only, remember?
The court fool got away with saying things that would have hanged anyone else, mock the king, name the corruption, wrap it up as a joke, and nobody could pin it on him. And that is actually the bit which I'm kind of like bouncing around in my head right now, because it's exactly how the show still runs. The stuff that matters gets said as entertainment, everyone laughs, and the why behind it, or rather what it hides, walks straight past while people argue the what. So who's really the fool here?
People who spend long periods of time at home and slowly lose the desire to go outside often think they're just resting. But psychologically, many of them are experiencing something called mental rumination. It's a state where the brain starts slowing down while the number of thoughts inside keeps increasing. The motivation to do anything slowly disappears. The mind gets stuck in the past, worries about the future, and burns itself out. This isn't laziness, it's a nervous system stuck in survival mode. And the longer it lasts, the more distant normal life begins to feel. And the difficult part is that you usually can't escape it through one massive burst of motivation. And sometimes recovery starts with just one small step.
This one's more real than the usual fare. That state where resting stops being rest and your head just runs laps. Plenty of people are living in that and calling it laziness. It just plainly isn't.
People will blame something that they're doing and being like, that's the Virgo in me. You think that real, or that's just lack of accountability?
It can be both. Kanye is a Gemini, so it's like Gemini is represented by 2 people. That's 2 different personalities. So it's like naturally, yeah, you can see if you're dealing with a Gemini, like, oh shoot, there go the other person. It can be a lack of accountability if you are basing that on not wanting to do better. Like, I'm a Libra, so you know I'm just a flirt. Like this is just what I do.
I done heard the craziest excuses for people's signs.
It kind of gives astrology a bad name because people are just looking at horoscopes, and 9 times out of 10 you're not even reading your horoscope the right way. You're supposed to be reading by your rising sign, but that's basically just like the tip of the iceberg.
Star signs there's a get out clause, and she's bang right to call it. Being a Libra doesn't make you a flake, it just gives a flake somewhere to pin it, you know? Real or a lack of accountability, bit of both maybe, mostly the second I'm gonna say.
Do you know what would happen if all humans suddenly disappeared from the planet? After about 1 week, all of the lights would turn off because no one was there to man the power grids. After about 2 weeks, all of the house pets still trapped inside would pass away due to dehydration or starvation, while the rest took to the streets in search for food. After 1 month, all the nuclear power plants would become unstable, leading to nuclear meltdowns across the entire planet. After about 1 year, any city not affected by nuclear fallout would be completely reclaimed by Mother Nature, and all of the satellites would start to fall back down to Earth. After 200 years, all of our largest buildings and structures would begin to collapse. Within 35,000 years, the plant cycle removes all traces of lead left from the Industrial Revolution from Earth's soil. 65,000 years after that, CO2 levels in our atmosphere return to pre-human levels.
I think it's safe to assume it would be very rare for something to survive the nuclear fallout from every reactor in the world going down. You know, it looks like if and when we go, we are taking the entire Earth with us. Everything but the cockroaches, of course. Those little blighters, they'll have the whole world to themselves. I don't know what a siren head is, but that is the biggest bugle I've ever seen.
See, this is why I'm so adamant about people using bins, yeah, not littering. 2008. If that's not an awakening, if that's not a calling sign in your brain that you need to stop littering, then I don't know what it is. Because it's not going anywhere. This person, that's 18 years ago, fam. I was 2, 3. And look how good condition it... Oh, yo,
Points to the lad, actually. A Walker's packet from 2008 still sat there, fully intact. It's a grim little advert for using a bin. It'll outlive the lot of us.
It's happening. Grab a date, grab your friends, grab a snack, because next week, 3 space events are all happening on the same day, August 12th. The biggest meteor shower of the entire year, the Perseids, will be peaking. There will be 50 to 100 meteors every hour, and the Perseids are notorious for having fireballs, which are just insane shooting stars that look like explosions in the night sky. These are caused by bigger chunks of stuff hitting Earth's atmosphere. Because what's happening is every August, Earth passes through the debris field of Comet Swift-Tuttle, and these chunks of comet hit our atmosphere at 37 miles per second. But that's not all, because August 12th is also a new moon, which means the sky will be extra dark for you to see the meteors. And that August 12th new moon is going to pass directly in front of the sun. There will be a total solar eclipse. This is the path of totality, but it will be at least partially visible in this entire area. And whether it's partial or not, never look at the sun or a solar eclipse without solar eclipse glasses. Happy stargazing and sun gazing. Stargazing.
Now, 3 things stacked on one night: a meteor shower, a new moon, and an eclipse, and of course it's trailed at you like a blockbuster, you know? Peel the breathless bit off, and it's genuinely worth standing in a field for, though. I mean, I managed to record the eclipse myself. You can go watch the short I made. It was pretty dope.
Cause I hear it in the night, I hear the secrets that you keep. When you're talking in your sleep, I hear the secrets that you keep.
I really don't agree with things like this, and I'm saying that as a man of science and a spiritual man who believes the body is just an inconsequential vessel for consciousness. I still think this is wrong.
There are some crazy things happening in the world right now that you might not have actually heard. There's a company who's building what they call a pet drone to take care of all of the bugs and mosquitoes that are flying around in your house or outside. This would apparently just be $50 a month and would guard your house 24/7. This is a video of their first ever ever air-to-air kill with their drone. A Wall Street Journal investigation reviewed over 1,000 creator videos that promoted a popular prediction marketing website that I won't name. Not one bet that any of these 1,000 creators made in their videos were real. The prediction market website actually built fake copies of its own website and then paid these creators $2,000 to $3,000 a month to film staged wins. And then they told them not to disclose the deal, and then a marketing firm attached spread this to over 140 million views. All of these bets that were shown as wins, if actually shown the correct numbers, would have lost almost $200,000 in total from the real platform. I'm a Dorian, follow to stay in the loop.
People still don't think there are paid creators who say and do exactly as they're told. Something I myself actually get accused of a lot. Couldn't be further from the truth, I can tell you that, but hey, what can I do? By saying that, you guys will still accuse me anyway, so it's a catch-22.
Here's an incredible photo of one of the rarest wild animals in the United States, a wild jaguar captured on a trail cam in southern Arizona. Jaguars once roamed from California to Louisiana, but hunting and habitat loss over the years eliminated them from the U.S. by the mid-20th century. Now, after decades of absence, a small number of wild males have begun returning from Mexico, giving scientists hope the species may be reclaiming part of its historic range. There are still no known breeding females in the United States, so every trail cam photo is considered an extremely rare glimpse of America's largest native cat. This picture was accidentally left behind by a woman who helped build the first iPhones. In 2008, a Foxconn factory worker forgot to delete her camera's test photos before the phone was shipped off to a customer in Britain. After he posted them online, the smiling worker became an instant internet sensation known simply as iPhone Girl. Here's a photo of a nuclear explosion less than 1 millisecond after detonation. At this moment, the fireball was only about 66 feet across, but already millions of degrees, roughly 3 times hotter than the surface of the sun. The spikes hanging beneath it are steel support cables being instantly vaporized into glowing plasma. The image was captured in 1952 using an ultra-high-speed camera, revealing the first moments of a nuclear explosion in a way the human eye never could.
3 properly rare ones, but the nuclear shot is the one that actually gets to me a bit, okay? That is the good stuff.
Dozens of athletes are disappearing right now. Last week, an entire football team of around 20 Ethiopian players went missing in Sweden on the last day of their tournament. And while most of them were aged just 14 to 17 years old, even their adult coaches disappeared with them. Then, this week over in Scotland, police have had to open an investigation after multiple athletes participating in the Commonwealth Games also went missing. This included 4 boxers from Uganda and 1 from Pakistan. Over in Canada just last month, 9 of Cuba's 12-person rowing team didn't show up for their flight either. And then just recently in South Africa, 7 Eritrean footballers playing for their national team have gone missing as well. Now, while police in most of these countries are still investigating these disappearances, foul play is not really expected. It's suspected that most of these athletes have purposefully disappeared to either claim asylum, like the one Ugandan boxer that has come out and said that that's what he's doing, or defect, like in the case of the Cuban rowing team.
20 kids and their coaches, a whole rowing team, boxers from 3 countries all vanishing the second they hit foreign soil. I mean, you could say that's not a mystery, but more of a pattern, don't you think?
Parents need to keep their kids off of YouTube because there is a brand new YouTube Kids channel that they are all watching. The channel is even more worse than you could think. But for context, what this mom just caught her kid watching on YouTube not only is making people sick to their stomachs, and after watching this channel, listen to what her kid says that he's gonna do to her.
Son has been coming into my room anywhere from 9 to 11 o'clock at night, and he's crying, and he gives me a hug, and when I ask him what's wrong, he says, I just love you.
But then she says what he does next is insane.
Morning, we're eating breakfast, and he looks over at me, and he says, Mommy, can you happy? And I'm like, you what? What? And he said, can you happy so I don't have to you? What? I said, you want me to? And he said, no, I don't, but the show said that you have to happy.
Does anybody know what channel that she's talking about?
Half of these viral parenting warnings fall apart the second you ask who was supposed to be parenting the child and vetting what they were watching. What I don't love is that the format now is scare the mums first and forget to remind them that they have the power, you know? Watch the way it ends on a cliffhanger instead of a source. If a channel really is telling kids to actually do these things, why not just name it?
If you really want to tap into some stuff, get up at 4 o'clock, and that's when you're most creative. So even if you got some problems, and you're trying to figure and you need some kind of thing, get up at 4 o'clock and think about it. And you'll tap into it and bring you.
I'll give him the early hours thing. 4 in the morning is quiet, you know, and your head's clear before the world starts pulling it apart. Whether that's tapping into something mystical or maybe just nobody texting you back, yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon. Doesn't work out.
So you tell us we're summoning a demon with AI, and then you put it in the robots you're building?
Our robot has a real brain. It's got the real world AI, so it tells us the leader in real world AI.
Let me remember, what did that demon call itself in the Bible? Oh yeah, Legion.
But even 5,000 robots, that's the size of a Roman legion, FYI. Which is like a little scary thought, like a whole legion of robots. I'd be like, whoa. But I think we'll literally build a legion, at least one legion of robots this year, and then probably 10 legions next year. And I don't know, it's kind of a cool unit, you know, units of legion. So probably 50,000-ish next year.
And don't think for a second that he's stopping at 50,000.
I can tell you now, nobody will remember that Tesla ever made a car. They will only remember the Optimus, and that he is going to make 1 billion of those. And it is going to be the most transformative technology product ever made in the history of humanity.
If you read like the plotline for Terminator, it's actually pretty smart.
Is Skynet real? How real is the prospect of killer robots annihilating humanity?
20% likely, maybe 10%.
On what time frame?
5 to 10 years.
People hear Musk talk about summoning the demon and think he's warning them. Warning who? He's building the thing and reading out the schedule as he goes. The end of human control and the end of the world aren't the same sentence. He only said the first, and that one is arguably worse.
I've just found out some information about the megalithic walls on Easter Island that I didn't know before. And yes, I said walls because I was told when I went to Easter Island that Vinapoo, the megalithic wall, was the only one on the island, and it was this weird outlier because all the other Ahus, the kind of building blocks where they put the Moai statues, all the other ones were sort of like mini stone Neolithic buildings, and there was just one random megalithic wall. Turns out there's quite a few of them. They're just off the tourist trail. So I was checking out one of the latest Matt Beal Limitless podcast episodes with guest Cassie Coppersmith, and she was talking about going to Easter Island, and she went on this off the tourist trail hike. It takes all day, and you basically hike point to point on Easter Island, and they came across a few of these precisely built massive megalithic walls. Thank you, Cassie. Some of these bricks were super huge, 6 foot plus by 6 foot plus, and extremely weathered. They are facing the west side of the island, but showing a lot of weathering, and even showing really cool, little triangular wedged weird shaped stonework, which is the type of stuff that you see over in Cusco. Cool. And this is the weirdest thing of all. She found a full-on Moai statue facing not out to the ocean, but turned around, facing in and built into the wall. What? I think we're all a bit confused, because these Moai are supposed to be embodied with mana, with the magic of the gods. They're supposed to represent the gods, and they're very respected. You don't turn one the wrong way around and shove it in a wall. It's like a spare brick, unless I'm assuming, unless maybe that was some sort of spiritual ritual thing. I don't know. There's something weird. There's something weird going on. And then I'm like, okay, well, the walls seem older than the Moai. Were they building megalithic walls after the Moai? Which one came first, the walls or the Moai, you know? Well, clearly this wall came after that Moai, but then... Do you know what I mean? I've got a lot of questions. Thank you very much, Cassie. I happened to just pop open the video on my lunch break, and now that's all I can think about today. All right. Let me know your thoughts.
Now, I've got a stack of questions on this one and no idea on most of them. The Moai are completely a mystery to me, I have to admit. I've not spent enough time looking at them and researching them to really comment on it. So I guess you guys can comment on it and maybe enlighten us all.
So AI companies are literally shredding books because they filled the internet with so much AI-generated text that they can't train on it anymore. And some of these books are the last copies in existence. This is true and crazier than it sounds, because in order to train Claude, Anthropic decided it needed to obtain every book in existence, especially books written before 2022, because that's when AI content started flooding the internet. So they started buying billions of dollars worth of books in bulk secretly, because as these court documents show, they knew the public would freak out over it. But scanning every single page by hand would be very expensive and time consuming. Instead, they decided to cut the spine off of the books and feed the pages to an industrial scanner, and then shred them afterwards, destroying the books entirely. But the scariest part is that nobody at Anthropic checked if any of these books were the last or one of the last remaining copies remaining, meaning books that survived wars, fires, and decades of handling may have just been lost forever. This is obviously a horrible look on Anthropic. What makes it worse is that lately they've been crying about China copying their AI models, while they've been training on the sum of the human knowledge and destroying it afterwards.
An AI company bought up millions of physical books, sliced the spines off, ran the pages through a scanner, and then binned the lot. Some of them possibly the last copies. You literally could not write it, no pun intended. Reasons are obvious when you take a step back, but good grief. We're really at this moment in time, this point. We've made it. The point of no return.
A person who is a slave to their bodily desires lives in hell, associated with the physical world. A person who allows their spirit's true will to control their mind and body lives in heaven, because they're not controlled by the cravings of the body.
Could this be why there is a concerted effort to trap us in some kind of physical addiction, whatever that may be? Sounds plausible to me.
No, you can't do that.
Yes, I can.
All right.
It's a public beach, dude.
Dude, come on, man.
It's a public beach.
I understand it's a public beach and I can't stop you, but now I have to explain it to my boss.
What? That I'm taking a video?
All right. It is kind of hot, sec. I mean, want to be cool. I don't know.
Okay. Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Come on now. A mystery torpedo washes up and a man in a wetsuit is right there to guard it while another bloke films on a laptop. I'll be honest, that looks a bit like a skit. The unidentified technology caption is doing a lot of work for two lads with a prop. P.S. I'm pretty sure that is just something they use to monitor what's going on in the sea. And they were probably just defending expensive tech, I'll be honest with you.
In ancient Egypt, every year the Nile River overflowed and flooded the farmers' fields. When the water finally receded, the land looked completely flat. No one could tell where one plot ended and another began. To fix this, engineers used long ropes to remeasure the land and mark out rectangles. But even though the ropes were the same length, the corners often turned out uneven, making the divisions unfair. Then they came up with a smart idea. They tied 13 knots in a row, creating 12 equal sections. By pulling the 4th, 8th, and 13th knots tight, they formed a triangle with sides of 3, 4, and 5 units. This triangle always made a perfect right angle, helping them measure every plot accurately and fairly.
When we watch the ancients solve surveying with a length of rope, it makes me really see the difference between us and them, then and now, you know? I suppose we never invented being clever, we only started writing it down.
It's running. Well, everybody knows me. I'm Emma Hayes, and I'm your local resident representative of the Guardian Alliance, which is a group of beings that come from other dimensional systems, but also other systems of our third dimension. Some of them are extraterrestrial, some of them are metaterrestrial, and some of them are ultra-terrestrial, which means they're completely outside of the framework of time and space as we know it. It's a large group that I speak for, and I have been a student of this group since childhood. And I'm here this evening to share with you some of the things I have learned And I'm hoping to give you something that you can take home with you, some information that can help you perhaps to understand a little bit better what your consciousness is about, what the experience of other dimensional beings and your relationship to them is about, and maybe some practical tips on how you can take the knowledge of understanding your bioenergetic system and use it to begin to accelerate the process of your own evolution, both spiritually and biologically. Now, a lot of people think that spiritual evolution and biological evolution are two separate things. I always thought that. And I think differently now because of what I have been taught for the Guardian Alliance. They've introduced me to something called the science of Quilanta. Quilanta presents a fascinating perspective on the human mind, on the cosmos, on matter, antimatter, and the relationship between all of those things. And I would like to share with you tonight some of the information that I've learned about this science. And hopefully we can grow in our learning together, because I am a fellow student of the Guardian Alliance, and I have a feeling our species will be learning this for a very long time. So you have to start somewhere, and Quilanta seems to be the place to start.
1998. A woman in a wicker chair calmly explaining she represents a council of beings from outside time and space. I have a soft spot for this corner of the old internet before it all got polished and monetized. Do I buy the science of Quilanta? Not a chance. Would I watch a full hour of it though? Yeah, guilty pleasure, I guess. I don't think that's aliens myself. Either way, a weird shape on a cave wall doesn't automatically mean spaceship. It doesn't automatically mean it's real either. Who's to say it wasn't put there in post, you know? And what I mean by post, I mean someone discovered the cave art and then added some, you know, embellishments. I'll just say that much. I mean, it's possible, right?
Does anybody else find this strange? Ariana Grande's latest music video is very bizarre. I don't know what is going on with Ariana Grande anymore, but you have to admit that her latest music video is very, very strange. And again, I know I can't be the only one out there that finds this music video to be very, very disturbing. And again, people have been wondering what is going on with Ariana Grande. And it seems as if all of this has started ever since she was in those Wicked movies. Again, what do you all think about all of this? Maybe there's nothing wrong at all. I really don't know. But honestly, something really seems off. But again, this music video that she released is very bizarre. And I know I can't be the only one out there that finds this new music video that she put out to be very, very strange. What do you all think about this? Comment down below.
And here's the daily. Is anyone else disturbed by this pop star video? The exact same framing exercise every time. No claim in it, no point to it. Just a bloke asking you to worry on his behalf so that you'll comment, I guess. Hollywood, runs on precisely this. So with that, we'll just be moving on.
The footprints on the moon will outlast the entire human race. On a beach, a footprint is gone within seconds, one wave, and it's like you were never there. But this one was pressed into the moon in 1969, and it hasn't moved since. There's no air up there, no wind, no rain, no weather of any kind. Nothing to wipe it away. The only thing that touches it is a near constant drizzle of space dust, sanding it down a millimeter every million years. And so it just sits there, perfectly sharp for tens of millions of years. We've even photographed them from orbit. Decades later, the trails are still exactly where the astronauts left them. Our species is only 300,000 years old, and most mammal species vanish within a million years or two. So chances are those footprints will outlast us all. If you compressed all 300,000 years of our species into a single day, the footprints would still last for nearly a full year. After 100 million years, the dust finally wins. Our first steps into the universe erased for good.
But the footprints were wrong though, weren't they? Wrong shoe print in the moon dirt. We've seen it before, so all this went in one ear and out the other for me.
Craft, and they gave the finger.
Okay, they were parked around the side of the crater. Okay, they were not parked on it, they were floating above it. So there were hundreds of these 9-foot reptilian guys standing with their legs.
Hundreds.
Yeah, they were all the way across underneath their vehicles,
okay,
standing
so
on the crater.
Feet, and what do they look like?
They're ugly looking, lizard, alligator type people. They got the same skin as the lizards got, okay, and terrible looking faces. But then they have the ability to shift and look like a human. All of them do. Okay.
Okay. Do you think von Braun was a reptilian?
No.
You really don't?
No.
Okay.
Your president, yes.
Oh, what? Which one? George Bush Sr.? Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Bill Clinton and this guy you got got rid of. Yeah.
Yeah.
They all were.
Right.
Okay. So, and they all have this ability to make themselves look like real good-looking people.
And you're saying Trump isn't one?
No, he's not. Okay.
Well, that's a relief.
And and he knows more about this subject than people realize.
Oh, excellent.
But trying to get back to your earlier question, these groups of extraterrestrial who work together but are at war with other extraterrestrials, okay, have these vehicles that look like a planet.
Right.
Like our moon is a vehicle. It's a command center for this arm.
9-foot lizard people parked under the moon, shape-shifting into world leaders, and he reels them off like items on a shopping receipt. Where do we even file this one, guys? I'd love to know who tells themselves this before they go to bed.
The government have just announced tax per mile. That is where you're taxed for every mile that you drive, showing that what used to be a conspiracy theory has turned true.
Well, pay per mile has finally turned up here in the UK, and the clip's calling it a conspiracy come true. It's not much of a conspiracy when they put it on the government website, you know. Tax the driving now, tax the standing still next, I guess. Same as ever, it only ever moves in one direction.
What if the Mandela effect is proof that you survived the end of the world? Think about it. Millions of people remember things differently. The Monopoly Man's monocle, Pikachu's black tail tip, even famous movie quotes that apparently never existed. And somehow, huge groups of people remember the exact same details. But here's where it gets weird. In 2012, the Mayan calendar predicted the end of the world, and obviously nothing happened, or at least that's what we thought. But there's a theory called quantum immortality. It suggests that when you die, your consciousness doesn't experience death. Instead, it continues in another universe where you survived. So what if something actually happened in 2012, and instead of dying there and then, our consciousness shifted into the closest possible reality reality where Earth survived. But the new reality wasn't perfect. Tiny details were different. Logos changed, movie quotes changed, even history felt slightly off. And those old memories were shared by so many people that traces of the old reality could have leaked into this one.
Look, it is a fun theory, and I really do feel the pull of it. I do. But no, the Mandela effect isn't proof you survived 2012 and slid into a spare universe that just happened to be lying around. You know, we misremember a logo, thousands of us the same way, because we grew up on the same adverts.
I'd do anything to see this concert. I'd wait in an infinite queue. I'd stay up all night to get tickets. I'd miss my grandma's funeral for this show. I'd quit my job. I'd travel to the ends of the earth. I'd sell my hair. I'd sell my soul.
I'm not sure what's going on with this new Spotify ad. People are saying that it's very strange. That lady just said she would miss her grandma's funeral to make it to a show. That doesn't sound like a good decision. Now, I'm not sure if they're playing around or this is a joke or something, but something is going on with Spotify. Shut up! Something is going on with this ad. Something, for real, and I don't know what it is. They gotta be playing around when somebody says that they will sell their soul. That's impossible. Your soul's not for sale. Something's going on with the Spotify ad, bro. That's all I know. But of course, guys, entertainment purposes only, because this is just entertainment. That's all that this is. There's nothing else to it. Shout out to Spotify, yo. I'm not sure what's going on with this Spotify ad. Let me know if you know. I'm out.
Right, the ad's got a woman offering to skip her grand's funeral and flog her soul for a gig. Nobody's buying souls. They're after your attention, and that one they've already got. That was the point.
I'm gonna show you guys something. So you see this reflection? The mirror thing doesn't just work on pure glass. You can also find a shiny enough reflection, just sort of
You know it's a puddle reflecting the sky, mate, not a portal to a parallel universe.
But what did they show you in the opening ceremony of the FIFA Cup that you didn't pay any attention to?
Welcome to the USA.
Let me show you what happened to the Hollywood sign in that opening ceremony. Now, here's their Hollywood on the hills. They are showing you that the Hollywood sign is supposed to break apart from being shaken.
They ain't.
Now who's performing? Future. This is the future. If you look at the United States right there in the middle of the field, it's blue. Blue represents water. After Hollywood floats out the way, Route 66, historic Route 66, is on the move. Now, do you guys remember the eclipses that we had? And there was the Scarlet A that went across the United States, the path of totality. Here, take a look. How about this? To the placement of these famous places from the United States. The Statue of Liberty, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, the Space Needle. Look at where they are. Notice they are all in the blue, the water. Or did y'all forget about The Space Needle in this picture, underwater. Golden Gate Bridge, underwater. Brooklyn Bridge, underwater. Lady Liberty, underwater. The St. Louis Arch, underwater. Did y'all forget?
Reading the apocalypse into a football opening ceremony is where some people get off the conspiracy train, but not us. We know too much. Same planet, different worlds. Not really much I can add to that, and I don't think really I should.
This is a real place in China. You can look it up on Google Earth. It's called the Pinglu Rift Valley, and the Earth looks like it was scarred by an alien record player. It looks like the grooves on a record player, which is ironic. Because in 1977, we shot a real record out into space for aliens to find us. On the record cover, they put a star map, literally a GPS location within the galaxy right there on the record. So it uses that galactic center measurement and a cluster of pulsars to show where the sun is in the galaxy. Pulsars send out pulsed beams of light. They're about the size of Manhattan Island. They're like galactic waypoints that can be identified by the pattern of their pulses. Each one is unique. Crazy, right? You know what's even crazier? There might be 2,500-year-old ones in the Nazca Desert. These things are called the Estrellas. That literally translates to star, and they are enormous. They are kilometers long. At first, these don't really look like the ones that we sent off, but maybe it's just because we don't actually know the language that they're speaking. These are extremely complex geometric constructions, meaning every shape within them is tied to every other shape. These are hard to recreate on paper. Try doing that on uneven terrain in the desert using sand and rocks. That's what we're working with. Since these are perfect when seen from above, these are very likely projections of something else onto the ground. What could that something else possibly be? Well, since they are star lines, the geometry of the interior of a planet might be a candidate. There's strong evidence these are astronomical. The Nabta Playa stone circle predates Egypt, and it's the exact same. And the Egyptians used the same grid layout to create their hieroglyphs as the people of Nazca used to create the Estrellas. Fast forward to the 1600s, Johannes Kepler used geometry to pretty accurately predict the orbits of the planets in the solar system. I don't know. But what I know for sure is that the ancient Hindu used something called the Vastu Mandala. It's how they create every temple. It's the floor plan. One of these Nazca lines is the exact Hindu Vastu Mandala. There's a 40-minute breakdown of these I'm posting tonight on YouTube. Just to reiterate for the people in the back, there's an ancient star map that's miles long projected onto the Peruvian desert, and we don't know why it's there.
China's Rift Valley, the Voyager record, the Nazca lines, and a Hindu floor plan all knotted into one video that ends naturally, of course, on a link in his bio. The lines are real and genuinely odd, and who knows what they're really for. Lashing 4 unrelated wonders into one grand theory so you'll tap through is the oldest move going. I appreciate the research, but there's not really enough recipes for me. Rubbish unless you count some computer graphics and a chopped up voiceover as dinosaurs living in the Amazon. Just not feasible, okay? This is on top of the idea that dinosaurs even existed in the first place too.
Do you ever read his tweets?
Нет.
Do you ever tweet?
Нет.
Why not?
У меня есть другие средства выразить свою точку зрения или провести какое-то решение. Ну, Дональд более современный человек.
Would you say he's more colorful than you are?
Может быть.
Two politicians pretending they're worlds apart while running the identical game. It never stops being, well, I would say hilarious, but we're the victims of all this. One tweets through everything, the other reckons he's above it. Same show, different costumes. I don't lean either way here. If you've been watching long enough, you know I don't care. It's all the show.
Wow, you need to watch this.
You ever wonder what people are doing who are in hell? Jesus doesn't describe every activity that takes place there, but he does describe two responses of humans who have been consigned there. where he says, in that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Some people, when they wake up in hell, will be devastated. And they won't find enough water in their eyes to satisfy their need to weep. They'll be sobbing. Oh no, it's not here. Oh God, please have mercy upon me. Be the greatest disappointment they could possibly experience to wake up in hell. But then the other group will be there, won't be weeping a bit. They'll be gnashing their teeth, which is a biblical metaphor for human fury. How dare you, God, put me here? The angry, or the anger of the damned will know no bounds. I sure don't want to end up in hell. But one thing I know for sure, that if I do, if I've deceived myself all these years, and if I'm one who says, well, Lord, didn't I do this and didn't I do that? And he looks at me and says, please leave, I don't know you. And he sends me to hell. One thing I can promise you, that I'll be a weeper, not a gnasher. Because if I know anything about theology, I know that if he sent me to hell tonight, I could make no just complaint against him. I've been guilty of treason. Every time I have sinned, I have asserted my will over the will of my creator. I have declared that I am sovereign, not the Lord God. I've worked against his kingdom, not for it. I've sinned.
I won't take the mick out of a man being sincere about his faith. That's his, and he is very much welcome to it. My own feeling is that heaven and hell are less places than states, pretty much interpretive to the core. There's a hell at the end of all of this. I suspect we're already in the waiting room.
They would clip the edges off coins ever so carefully to not visibly change the shape of the coin, so it would look totally normal at a quick glance, allowing them to slip through casual checks by cashiers and bankers at the register. The clippers would then collect all the scrap clippings of the coins' precious metals, smelt them down, and sell them for a profit. Coin clipping was a fairly prominent issue for hundreds of years, from the early Roman Empire and all throughout the Middle Ages, back when coins actually contained significant amounts of real valuable metals in them, with surveys conducted throughout the 12th and 13th centuries finding that many coins had lost up to a third of their original weight due to clipping. This was clearly terrible for the economy, and people were losing trust in the government's ability to regulate their monetary systems. So they came up with a solution, devised by none other than your boy, Isaac Newton. Yeah, the guy who invented gravity was also England's Warden of the Mint, where they print money and stamp coins, who prompted the Great Recoinage of 1696, recalling all old clipped coins and introducing new ones, now with ridges or milled edges, as these new grooves would make the smooth edges of clipped coins more immediately visible, rendering them useless when the clippers tried to pay with them. And this standard spread throughout the world's modern currency systems. But those clippers were a sneaky little bunch, as they found a new way to chintz the system with these updated ridged coins called coin sweating, where they would take a bunch of coins, put them in a bag, and aggressively shake it, so the coins would grind up against each other and shed tiny little dust particles of metal at the bottom of the bag, which they would again collect and melt down for profit. But obviously this method was far less efficient than clipping and required large amounts of coins to yield the most minimal profits, and never quite caught on like clipping. Today the ridges are still there, not for their original anti-clipping purpose, but more so for tradition, security against counterfeiting, and as a tactile aid for the visually impaired. In addition, they've also made clipping or smelting down of coins for profit pretty much obsolete by completely removing the precious metals coins used to have in exchange for cheap alloys. Like the American quarter, for example, was actually 90% silver before 1965, meaning it contains 0.18 troy ounces of silver, worth about $17 today, 68 times the actual monetary value of a quarter. Meanwhile, today it's 90% copper and contains 0 silver, so don't even think about it, you sneaky little coin clipper.
People shaved slivers off coins for centuries, melted the shavings down and spent the coin like nothing had happened. And the fix, was Isaac Newton sticking ridges on the edges so you could tell at a glance if any had gone missing. No, the creative ways that they have come up with over the years to keep us downtrodden and hungry for something that only has value because they say it does. What should we call that? I'm thinking something like a circus. I'm seeing faces painted. Oh yeah, clown world.
Albert Einstein famously said, everyone's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it's stupid.
Small one, really small, I'm talking like grain here, but Einstein almost certainly never said the fish and the tree line. Lovely sentiment, wrong person entirely.
Do you think you could pass this? It is an 8th grade graduation exam that is going viral right now, and apparently it is from 1912 for rural students in Kentucky, with questions like a school enrolled 120 pupils, and the number of boys was 2/3 the number of girls. How many of each sex were enrolled? A man bought a farm for $2,400 and sold it for $2,700. What percent did he gain? Grammar questions like how many parts of speech are there, and what is a personal pronoun. Geography questions like defining longitude and latitude, and locating Quebec, Liverpool, and Honolulu on a map. Physiology questions like naming the organs of circulation, defining cerebrum, and comparing arteries and veins as to function. And history questions like who invented the telephone, sewing machine, and phonograph.
That 1912 exam does the rounds to prove kids today are thick. But it doesn't take a lot to do that nowadays. Half of it is, well, farm sums and place names a Kentucky kid used daily that you never will. Could you pass it? Probably not, nor could they, or most kids from that era, so I don't know. Mount Everest from a plane window. That is it. That's the whole video. Yeah, probably not real.
You're gonna like this. What did God take out of Adam to create Eve? A rib. And what are one of the only bones in a human body that can actually regrow itself? Ribs. And what do those ribs surround in the human body? The heart. And how many ribs are in a human body again? 24. Now check this out. And the 24 elders who sit on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshiped God. That verse is talking about heaven. 24 elders sit around Jesus like human ribs, and Jesus is the heart of our faith.
I find it pretty interesting how 24 also equates to 6 in numerology. I think it goes deeper than religion. Far deeper. Like we're talking maybe even quantum level rabbit hole here.
This is the one that's going to make you question everything. The hollow moon theory. Our moon feels like it shouldn't exist, and when you line up the numbers, it starts feeling like somebody put it there on purpose. Let's start with size. Our moon is about 1/4 of the size of the Earth, which is freakishly huge compared to other moons and their planets, and I'm not counting Pluto because it's not considered a planet anymore. But get this, the moon is 60% less dense than Earth. Way too light for its size. There are only 2 ways that this works. Either it's porous like a sponge all the way through, or it's a shell around a hollow center. And one of NASA's own, Gordon MacDonald, even said that the data made the moon look more hollow than solid. Now, here's what's baffling. The sun and the moon appear the exact same size in our sky, and nowhere else does this happen. The sun is 400 times wider than the moon, but it sits almost exactly 400 times farther away. Those numbers cancel out perfectly. The famous science writer Isaac Asimov called this the sheerest of coincidences. It's the only reason we get total perfect eclipses, which doesn't happen anywhere else in the solar system. And then there's this. We always see the same side of the moon. Officially, that's because of tidal locking. And to be fair, that isn't unique to our moon, but you have to admit it's a strangely perfect setup for something that doesn't want you seeing its other half. And if people have reported strange flashes, glows, and transient lunar phenomena on the side that we can see, then what's happening on the side that we almost never get to look at? So how did the moon come to be? Well, the leading theory says that a Mars-sized planet called Theia slammed into the early Earth, and the debris became the moon. But test the moon rocks against that, and the isotopes don't show another planet at all. They show that the moon is made of the same stuff as Earth. And then we've got some eerie mythology here too. In ancient Greece, Aristotle wrote of a people in Arcadia called the Proselines. Their name means before the moon, and they told of ancestors who lived on the Earth with no moon in the sky. And they weren't alone. Half a world away, the Muisca of Colombia started their creation story the exact same way. A time when the moon wasn't yet in the sky. 2 peoples, 2 continents, no contact, the same impossible memory. And then 2 Soviet researchers took the theory even further. In 1970, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov asked the question that nobody wanted to touch. What if the moon isn't really a moon at all?
What if it was constructed, hollowed out, and placed in orbit around Earth by someone else? The more they looked at the early Apollo-era data, the more convinced they became that this idea couldn't be dismissed outright. In their view, there wasn't one single fact that proved that the moon couldn't be artificial. They pointed to strange details in the Apollo data. The moon has no global magnetic field today, yet some of the rocks brought back by Apollo missions were magnetized. Its surface also contains tough, heat-resistant materials like titanium, chromium, and zirconium, the kinds of metals that sound suspiciously like you'd use to build a protective shell. And then there's the crater problem. Hollow moon theorists claim that many lunar craters appear weirdly shallow for their size, almost like incoming meteorites are smashing into the surface and then hitting something underneath that stops them from going deeper. And then there's the big one. During Apollo 12, they crashed the lunar lander into the moon. And according to official reports, the moon rang like a bell for a full hour. The same experiment was carried out with Apollo 13, except they went bigger and dropped a used Saturn V booster, and apparently the moon rang for 3 hours. I'm sure there's an explanation, but usually hollow things ring when they get hit with something. But nah, this is all just an insane theory, right?
Ooh. So we finish on the big one, because the moon is the one I can never quite leave alone, you know? There's always like one thing. Think about it, right? It's too big, it's too light, it sits at the exact distance to blank out the sun almost to the pixel. And no matter how long we look, we only ever get the one face of it, which is either the most convenient coincidence in the sky or it isn't a coincidence at all. And do I think it's a hollow spaceship parked here by ancient engineers? No, I don't know that. And I'm not going to pretend I do, but it's just a rock doing nothing up there. Well, has never once sat right with me, okay? There's more to it than we're told, and what the more actually is, I honestly couldn't tell you. And on that note, I think that's where we'll leave it for now, I guess. Once again, we went down the rabbit hole. It wasn't to find the bottom, but it was to extract the thread which sits within all the noise and the static and practice our discernment along the way. Now, if you did enjoy today's episode, let me know. Drop a like on the video. Tell me what you enjoyed. Tell me what you want to see more of. Tell me what you want to see less of. I am open to feedback. I'm always looking to curate the perfect episode, if there is such a thing. Obviously, it's quite hard because I really only can gather what I come across, and it's getting increasingly harder to do that these days. But if you're new, I hope I earned your subscription today. I do this every single day, so it would mean a lot to me if you did hit that subscribe button. And also, if you do, make sure you hit that notification button. That actually goes for everybody who's watching at this point. If you're subscribed or not, just check to see if you've got that notification bell. Just mark it. It'll ensure that you don't miss whenever I release an episode. Now, the most important thing that all of you can do for me right now is stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. Until next time.